Hey everyone, welcome to week 1 breastfeeding update for baby Abraham. So if you haven't watched my labor and delivery story, you should go and watch that because it will make a lot more sense in reference to my breastfeeding video, because it was crazy and it really affected how our breastfeeding journey has gone so far. But I'll do a short recap. I was induced at 38 weeks 3 days, delivered at 38 weeks 4 days, and my baby was in the NICU for 7 a week after delivery. So, and he couldn't eat for 3 days because he went through a cooling process to help him, help his body get rid of some extra CO2 from where his cord was wrapped around his neck. So, yeah, they had to slow his metabolism way down, and he couldn't eat for 3 days. So that affected our journey. So if you want more information about that, watch labor and delivery. But here's breastfeeding. So 38 weeks, that Friday, when I turned 38 weeks, I started pumping because I knew I would be induced at 38 weeks, 3 days. I was pumping to get my body ready for labor, try to stimulate any contractions, etc. And I did produce some colostrum when I was pumping, and I was able to save it, which was awesome. So that's when I marked the start, was that first production of colostrum. And my laundry pile now, it's crazy. And the collection of it. So I was able to collect it and store it, and I actually brought it to the hospital for after he was born, just in case he needed it, because I knew that at my hospital it's really hard to get donor milk for term babies or babies that aren't in the NICU, and I just wanted the option of having my colostrum if he needed it for some reason. So I probably collected total a ½ ounce of colostrum, which is actually a lot before you've delivered your placenta. And your milk starts really coming in. So right after he was born, we didn't get to do the skin to skin for an hour. We didn't get to do latching or anything like that. He was whisked right away to the NICU, and I started stimulating my breasts an hour after delivery. It was just kind of I don't want to say I know better, but I know that it is very beneficial to start stimulating your nipples immediately after birth, so your milk pathways and ducts are primed and ready to make milk when your baby is going to nurse. So I've had a baby before, and I nursed for a really long time. I nursed for 4 years with her, so I have a lot of established milk pathways. But every time you have a new baby, you can get new pathways if you have that stimulation. So I started stimulating at an hour, just hand expression, nipple stimulation, that kind of stuff. And then I had the nurse bring me a pump, and I pumped a little bit as well. So I can insert pictures, because I have a bunch of pictures, because I couldn't nurse my baby, so I was only really focused on controlling my milk output aspect. So I'll try to put a picture of what I collected immediately after birth, an hour and a half after birth. It was a pretty fair amount of colostrum for that amount of time. So we just started collecting it and storing it. So when you're collecting colostrum that early, it's not beneficial to put it in a bag because it's not that much. It's actually more beneficial to put it in a medical syringe, not with a needle, but just the plastic part. And that way your baby won't be sucking out a bottle. You can just drip it in their mouth, and they won't get nipple confusion. And it's just smaller out, so it's a smaller container. It just makes more sense. So we started storing it in syringes at first. I did sniff my baby a lot, as much as I could in the NICU, just to get some good bonding, hormonal things going. And I took a blanket of his to smell while I was pumping. So for 3 days, I pumped. I'm still pumping, but exclusively pumped because obviously I couldn't nurse him. And I was pumping probably every 3 hours, sometimes a little bit more. And collecting, before my milk fully changed over to mature milk, collecting probably a half an ounce to an ounce at a time. So my milk came in the morning of the third day, probably around 1, 2 midnight, something like that. And it came in a lot. So I've been using the hospital grade pump of Medela Symphony, which has been great. It doesn't hurt at all. It expresses and like it has a really good suction. Letdown mode is awesome. It has a preemie mode if you have a preemie and you need to like simulate how it would be to nurse a preemie. So I filled up the NICU fridge with all my milk. And then finally when we were able to nurse, it was Saturday. He was born on Tuesday night. He latched on pretty well. He was a little bit frantic, and he had been having a pacifier prior to me ever holding him or feeding him, because that was the only thing that could soothe him while he was in the cooling process, was a pacifier, and sugar water. So he did latch, and that was awesome. We probably had a good 3-5 minutes on each side of latching. So as the days progressed, he was getting pacifier still, and he was getting a bottle, because I would pump milk, and then when I wasn't there, I always told him to call me to nurse him. And then sometimes he would need like topping off because he just couldn't nurse because he was so confused because of the pacifier in the bottle. And so he would get the bottle, and plus I wanted him to gain weight. Like I didn't want him to be struggling in the NICU, because you need to gain weight to get out of the NICU. So he would have the bottle. But on, let's see, on Sunday, we thought we were going to be going home and like the next day, and one of the lactation consultants said that I should try Shield. And I was kind of opposed to the Shield because I don't have flat nipples. I nursed a baby or a child for like 4 years, but this child was so confused about the pacifier in the bottle and my nipple not being like that. Okay, if you're first time mom and you're watching this, your nipple has to be like, when they nurse, it elongates and they like pull it out as they nurse, but when you're not nursing, it's not necessarily always like super erect. So that's how mine was. He was like, what is this? It's too soft for me. Like, I don't want to work at pulling it into the right shape. And he was getting extremely frantic because he was hungry. He hadn't eaten for 3 days. So all this was catching up to him. His metabolism was really catching up to him. So I tried the Shield, and it was fantastic. He was so happy. My milk was in. He hardly has to work to get a letdown with me. It's just usually just there. So he has really good suck swallow when he does get on, and starts sucking the right way. So we came home on February 1st, and we have nursed without the Shield more than several times, and he's done good. He has to be very calm, and he has to be in the right mood. And he does prefer one side to the other to not have the Shield, so we do use the Shield. Probably now it's about 60% to 40%. I always try without it. Well, I have been today, like trying without it. Today's 1 week and 1 day. But he's doing really good. So, other things, let's see. That was kind of our process. I started leaking a couple days ago, probably around day 5. And I wasn't prepared for that because I didn't think I would be in the hospital for that long. So I had to get nursing pads and deal with all that in the hospital. It's hard for me. It was really hard for me to sleep on my chest when my milk came in. And no soreness really. Sometimes he latches a little funny, and I have to like either take him off or he corrects himself. But otherwise, he has a really apparent upper lip tight, just like me. Like you can tell he's gonna have a gap in his teeth because he has a really prominent. I think it's called a frenulum. Like that's a frenulum, and I think this is a lip frenulum. It's really prominent, but it hasn't affected his latch at all. Floor has one too, and he's gaining weight. He was born at 8'11", and he was 8'12" at the doctor today. So, not worried about that. I also have a baby scale in case I am worried about it, but I try not to focus too much on that. He's having lots of peas. He's growing. He's latching. He's doing great. And I have a ton of milk in my freezer, my deep freeze. I haven't even calculated, but I'm sure I have probably 75 to 100 ounces already. Of pumped milk, and I have a hospital grade pump at home just in case I need it, because with the Shield you should be pumping just to make sure your milk supply is established, because it is a hindrance to like stimulating and all that stuff. So I am pumping probably twice a day now within the last 2 days, at morning and night, and getting probably anywhere from 7 to 8 ounces between the two breasts. And yeah, I think that's great for 8 days post delivery. So anyway, let me know if you guys have any questions. I am going to follow up with a lactation consultant if we can't wean off the Shield, probably soon. I really don't want to be on the Shield forever. It's great when he's latching and it's working, but to have it on all the time in the middle of the night, it's like really cumbersome. I'd really rather him just get off the Shield, but I want him to gain, so we'll go at our own pace, but I'm not worried for now. Yeah, I think that's it. Okay, so I will continue to update you on our breastfeeding journey. Probably, unless something crazy happens, I'll do an update. Otherwise, probably a month out. Very excited to be nursing a sweet, sweet little baby again. It's so lovely to hear the little grunts and all that kind of fun stuff. I'll actually insert a clip of him nursing his little noises. They're so adorable. I just forgot how cute that was. So anyway, I will talk to you guys later. And thanks for watching. Bye.